go. I'll wait till it catches up. Oh, it's falling. It's kind of balancing on the charger there. Okay. I think the stream has caught up. Alright, so we are more than halfway through the book. We are on page 220. This upcoming chapter is pretty thick. Next chapter is not so bad. Chapter after that is really thick, actually. Anyway. So, once again, this is Off the Page by Jody Picoult and Samantha Van Leer. And we are in page 220. And we're going to be starting from Oliver's perspective. The previous readings should be in the VODs. If they're not, I'm going to have to change it on the computer because I can't access it via the phone. If I can get the computer connected to the internet, that is. I am in a tent. If you do not know, I am currently homeless. And that's about it. So let's get started. So this is from Oliver's perspective. The way my story is told, at the moment my father was battling with a dragon, my mother was giving birth to me, attended by 3 fairies who were there to bestow gifts on her baby. The first fairy gave me wisdom, the second gave me loyalty, but just before the third was going to give me courage, my mother had a vision of the king's impending death and cried out, "Save him!" The third fairy, mistaking her plea, did not give me bravery after all. Instead, she breathed life into me, so that at the very moment my father died, I was born. I've always thought that maybe that's what made me so restless between the lines. I was the only character in the book who had literally been given life. It was only natural to want to experience it to the full potential, not inside the confines of someone else's story, but rather in a tale of my own making. I chafed at my boundaries. I dreamed of bigger things. What was the point of having a life if you've never had the chance to live it? When you are in the inside looking out, though, you picture that the other world is perfect. You never peer at the dark corners where there are cobwebs. You never flip over the cloud with the silver lining to see the storm beneath. You never imagine what might go wrong. Here is the truth about things that are real. They can be broken. At first, when I open my eyes and I swat the alarm clock on the nightstand, I am blissfully, completely unaware. I'm still lost in that foggy zone between sleep and consciousness. I don't remember yesterday. I don't remember what's to come. But then, all at once, memory collapses on me, knocking the breath from my body. Frump, the car, digging a grave, leaving Delilah. Each recollection feels like I'm being stabbed. But that last one, it's the twist of the knife. I rub my hand over my face, wondering how I'm supposed to go through the motions today. Put on a fake American accent and a teenage persona. Pretend to listen to my high school friends' problems as if they matter. Act like a typical student. I can't even imagine facing Delilah and pretending that I'm not counting down the minutes that we have left together. I pull the covers up on my bed, something I won't have to do once I'm back in that blasted book. Somehow my bed always manages to make itself. Then I stumble into the bathroom, brush my teeth, strip off my boxers, and step into the shower, letting the water cascade over me. The moment I close my eyes, though, I see Frump. How long will it be before that doesn't happen? And if it stops, does it mean that I have forgotten him? Once Delilah and I are separated, will it be the same? No, I tell myself, because she can always open the book and talk to me, just like she used to. Well, what happens when she finds someone else? When she goes on a date and comes back with her cheeks flushed, thinking of a boy who isn't me? When she gets married and has children and grows old, while the whole time I stay 16 and a prince forever? It wouldn't matter to me if her hair went white and wrinkles lined her face. I know that I'll love Delilah till the end of time, which in my experience is infinite. But that is not the case for her. I have nowhere to go, no way to move on, but Delilah's life will evolve. Her world will force her to forget me, even as mine forces me to remember her. Turning the faucet so that the spray stops, I stand in the shower stall with my hands pressed against the tile for a moment, trying to prolong the inevitable. Then I wrap a towel around my waist and pad into my bedroom, pulling on clothes that I haven't worn long enough to find familiar. Packing up my satchel stuffed with books and homework I didn't complete. I hurry downstairs for a quick bite of breakfast before the bus comes. Jessamine is in the kitchen. She has already set out a bowl of cereal that I assume Edgar likes, but that rather tastes like earth to me. When she turns around, I realize that there are dark circles under her eyes and that her face is unnaturally pale. Has she been sick again? Have I once again been too wrapped up in my own drama to notice? Are you feeling all right? I ask. Jessamine shrugs. I didn't sleep well last night. It must be a full moon or something. She reaches into the refrigerator and pulls out a carton of orange juice. I expect her to reach for a glass and pour me some, but instead she leans over my bowl of cereal and fills it with the juice. Jess, Mom, what are you doing? I grab her arm to stop. That's not milk. Of course it is, Edgar, she argues. I point to the bowl. It's orange. She blinks, staring down at the bits of cereal floating in the liquid as if she's seeing it clearly for the first time. Oh, she forces a laugh. I guess I'm more tired than I thought. She smiles faintly. Maybe it's time to turn me in for a newer model. I suddenly realize that this might be the last time I see Jessamine Jacobs. That if Edgar has done his job well, I could be done by nightfall. I could be gone by nightfall. This woman has taken care of me for nearly 4 months, giving me the benefit of the doubt when I said or did something out of character for Edgar. I may have known her in person for only a short time, but she created me, and because of that, she still feels like a parent. You've been a really great mom, I blurt out. I just thought that you ought to know. Jessamine blanches, and then just as quickly seems to recover. Wow, and it's not even Mother's Day, she jests, pouring me a fresh bowl of cereal, this time with milk. So serious before 8 a.m.? You make it sound like today's the end of the world. I dig my spoon into the bowl and I force a smile. It might as well be. Delilah is waiting for me when I arrive at school. I stare at her face for a moment, her golden eyes, her chestnut hair, the freckles that dot her nose and cheeks, her lips pink as ribbon candy and just as sweet. I commit every feature to memory, locking each one into my mind so that I can keep it forever. This may be the last time that I step off the bus, the last time that I walk through the halls holding Delilah's hand, the last time I get to hear the music of her voice. Today is full of lasts. How are you doing? She asked quietly. I've had better days, I confess. Where's Seraphima? She wouldn't stop crying, so I locked her in my bedroom with a box of tissues and enough Twinkies to fill a Hostess truck. I take her hands. It's not too late to reconsider this, I say. To come up with another plan? Her eyes fill with tears. I can't lose you. And yet that's exactly what's going to happen. So what do we do? I ask. Well, Delilah says softly, I suppose we have to talk to Edgar. She unzips her backpack, revealing the fairy tale. It feels as if I swallowed lead for breakfast. I don't have energy to move or the resolve. Oh, I dropped my phone. Here we go. Stiffly, I follow Delilah through the halls, trying to smile as other students pass and mumbling responses when my friends and acquaintances say hello. Can they tell that I'm already a ghost? Raj grabs my shoulder and shakes me. Man, any day now, I'm freaking out. I stare at him, wondering how the devil he knows that I may not be here for long. I mean, all I dream about is my SAT score, Raj continues. It's totally going to determine the rest of my life. I heard a guidance counselor talking to Mr. Ellick, and he says that we should be getting the results this week. Yeah, I say, trying to fake enthusiasm. It's going to be crazy. Look, I have to go. I'm late for I let my voice trail off, unable to even think of a good lie. I wonder how you would have fared at college, Delilah murmurs. Suddenly, Chris walks up to us, his face troubled. Hey guys, look, this is kind of awkward, but has Jules said anything to you about me? He asked Delilah. I mean, I thought we had a pretty awesome night, but she hasn't responded to any of my texts. Delilah exchanges glances with me. She's really sick. Oh man, that sucks. But I'm kind of glad it isn't just me, Chris confesses. Maybe I'll stop by her house with some soup later. Don't, Delilah blurts out. There's no way she wants you seeing her like that, especially after just one date. Chris nods. Okay, then can you at least tell her that I was asking about her? Absolutely, Delilah says, and as soon as Chris is out of sight, she lets out a breath that she's been holding. How do you feel about cutting first period? I doubt it'll make a difference, given that I'm leaving. She takes my hand, hers small and cool around my own, and leads me out the door by the gymnasium to the football field behind the school. There she ducks beneath the bleachers, where we will not be seen. Delilah unzips her backpack and reaches for the book, but I still her with a hand on her wrist. Promise me one thing, I ask. I get to say goodbye to you. I'm thinking of Frump. I'm thinking of how hard forever is when you don't see it approaching. Delilah meets my gaze, her eyes steady. I promise, she says. Together we flip open the book, landing on the final page. The cast is assembled haphazardly on Ever After Beach. We did it, Edgar crows, holding up something tiny I can't quite make out. I frown at him. Why are you wearing my hose? Why do you even have hose? Edgar replies. Believe me, it's not by choice. The book apparently doesn't like my writing quite as much as my mom's. I figure we only have a matter of hours before I start talking a British accent and Jules here starts spinning straw into gold. Wrong fairy tale, I mutter. What did you find? Delilah interrupts. Another passage. Edgar explains. He whistles to the fairies who flutter to his side, each taking a corner of the small item. Good to see you're feeling better, he says to Ember, who flickers in response. The fairies fly the tiny disc closer to the surface of the book so that we can see it better. Is that a biscuit? I ask. Well, we're not sure, Jules admits. We haven't done a taste test. I read the piped inscription. Wish upon a star. Have you tried wishing? I ask. Of course, Edgar says. It didn't work. I even said the whole Starlight Starbright thing. You're not supposed to wish on the cookie, Delilah interjects. You have to eat it. Why on earth would anyone eat a star? I ask. Haven't you ever read Alice in Wonderland? She asks, and glances at both Edgar and Jules, who shrug. Geez, you two really need to pay more attention in English class. This is just like the treats that Alice eats to make her grow and shrink. Treats, says Humphrey, nudging Edgar's new tunic. Can I have one? For heaven's sakes, don't let him eat that biscuit, I say. It will start raining tennis balls. Orville takes a step forward. Oliver has a point, he muses. Whoever eats the biscuit should have the purest wish. That's the only way to be certain that everyone winds up where they're needed to be. He glances between Edgar and Jules. For example, Edgar, you appear to have a newfound conflict of interest. Delilah's eyes widen. No way. You two? You of all people should understand that he's hot, Jules says. What about Chris? Delilah asks. Yeah, Edgar asks pointedly. What about Chris? Can we please talk about this later? I interrupt. Orville, you were saying? Whoever is chosen to consume that biscuit must be focused on nothing but getting you and Seraphima back home. Queen Marine clears her throat delicately. I'll do it, she volunteers, breaking through the crowd. I miss you terribly, Oliver, and there's nothing I'd like more than to have you here again, as selfish as that may be. And to be frank, I've never understood the whole Zorg plot anyway. She glances at Edgar. No offense, dear. None taken, he murmurs. Shall I do it now? She asks, reaching for the biscuit. No, I yell, and everyone on the beach freezes. Seraphima isn't with us. She's at Delilah's house. We'll come back in a few hours, and we'll make the switch then. Trog waves to me. Wait till you hear the nocturne that I've been... Wait till you hear the nocturne I've written for the flute, Oliver. You'll have to see what I've done with my cave, Repsculio adds. I've completely redecorated. I'll make your favorite meal, Queen Marine promises. I paste a smile on my face. I can't wait, I tell them, when in reality, I'd rather postpone this forever. Delilah shuts the book and zips it into her backpack. I hold out my arms and she settles into them. We have 7 hours, she says quietly. I can't believe we have to spend them in school. I look at her. Who says that we have to? We can't go to Delilah's house because Seraphima is there, still sobbing. We can't stay on the grounds of the school because we will be caught. So instead we get into Delilah's car and we drive until the road ends. She parks in front of a low wall over which I can just see the ocean. This time of year, there is no one on the beach. It's cold and we only have each other to keep warm. As we sit on the sand, I hold Delilah's hand, rubbing my thumb over her knuckles. How much trouble will you get into for skipping school? It doesn't matter, she says, leaning her head against my shoulder. The wind whips her hair around us. Do you remember when I told you that you were the biggest adventure of my life? I ask. She nods. Before you left the book. Until you came along, I didn't think that I had a purpose. Why was I written? Why was my existence even necessary? But when you read me, you made me real. And when you fell for me, you made me understand why I'm here. I tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. It's to love you, unconditionally. Delilah turns, her eyes damp. I don't know who to be without you. You'll be who you always were, the girl who brought me to life and took my breath away. More like the resident pariah, Delilah replies. I lift her palm and brush a kiss over it. I'm rather fond of pariahs, I say. When she looks at me as if the sweetest compliment has shattered her, I fall to pieces. I don't want to go, I whisper, my voice shaking. Oliver, no, I put my finger against her lips. Right now, I'm not leaving. Right now, I'm not gone forever. Right now, it's just you and me, like it was the first time that we met, when this was all that I dreamed of. I pull Delilah into my arms and kiss her, softly at first and then more insistently. We lie back on the cool sand and her arms close around me, a vise. I run my hands from her shoulders down her spine, tracing every inch, locking her hips against mine. I try to press into her skin a memory of what it feels like to be held by me. How can one feel this much passion, pain, sorrow, emotion without breaking apart? How do ordinary people fall in love every day? The rest of my existence will consist of me rescuing a princess that I care little about, kissing her, wishing for a life with her, but every time I will be saving Delilah. I will be kissing Delilah. I will be dreaming of forever with Delilah. By the time we return to Delilah's house that afternoon, I can't let go of her. I hold her free hand while she drives. I slip my arm around her waist as we walk inside and climb the stairs. I feel like a condemned prisoner marching to his death. Luckily, Delilah's mother is still at work, so she won't ask what's wrong when she sees us, red-eyed and grim. Delilah reaches for the knob of her bedroom door, hesitating. Are you ready? She asks. I'll never be ready, I tell her. She wraps her arms around me, burying her face against my neck. I heard it's going to rain tomorrow, Delilah whispers. Puzzled, I draw back. I beg your pardon? I just want the last words I say to you here to be totally ordinary. Something I might say to you if I was going to see you again tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. I nod gravely. Perhaps it'll be sunny on Wednesday, I say, playing along. She takes a deep breath and opens the door. Sitting cross-legged on the bed is Seraphima. Her eyes are swollen. She is surrounded by a heap of plastic food wrappers. She takes a tissue from the box and blows her nose loudly in the center. When can I go home? She asks, sniffling. I sit down beside her as Delilah takes the fairy tale from her backpack. Now, I tell her, Edgar's found a way, and you're not going alone. I look up at Delilah, holding her gaze. I'm going with you. Seraphima throws her arms around my neck, crying again. I'm so glad, she sobs. I was afraid to go back by myself. What if something awful happens? Something awful already has, I think. Delilah sets the book on the bed and threads her fingers through mine. Here goes, she says, and opens to the last page. Delight immediately breaks over Seraphima's face as she sees the family that she has missed. Edgar and Jules scrambles to their feet. Ready? He asks. I nod. Are you? He takes a deep breath, reaching for Jules. Yes, he says, and he turns to Queen Marine, who gives me an encouraging smile. Edgar reaches into the pocket of his tunic, my tunic, and his face freezes. Where did it go? What do you mean? I ask, my heart starting to race. If he can't find the biscuit, I can't go back into the book. It was right here a minute ago. He turns to Queen Marine. Did you take it? Why would I take it, dear? You were guarding it like it was the crown jewel. He begins to turn in a circle, staring at the ground. Nobody move, he cautions. I don't want to crush it if it fell. Humphrey begins to sniff around, drooling a trail. I can smell it. I can smell it. I can smell it. No, wait, it's a horse. He smacks into Socks's considerable bottom. The pony turns around, half of a star biscuit dangling from his lips. He looks up. He looks absolutely chagrined to be caught in the act. I couldn't help it, he says, his teeth still clenched onto the tree. It was literally calling my name. Socks, I'm only 100 calories. I can't believe this, Edgar shouts. Don't take another bite. I swear, Socks promises, the diet starts tomorrow. Edgar rips the remainder of the biscuit from Socks' mouth and hands it over to Queen Marine, who wipes the horse's slobber off on her velvet robes. Half a cookie won't do, Orville says. It's too risky. The magic might be diluted. Socks will have to be the one to wish you back home. Socks looks anxious and holds a hoof up to his chest. Me? He asks. I don't know. I mean, I didn't prepare for this. I haven't practiced speech, and I'm not wearing the right color saddle or anything. Socks, I say firmly. You can do this. I believe in you. He looks up at me. Thanks, Ollie, but what if I mess up? You want me to return, don't you? You want to be able to take breathless rides through the unicorn meadow with me on your back? And you want Seraphima there, too, so that she can braid daisies into your mane, just like the way you like. Socks thinks about this. I do look good in daisies. You see? It's simple. All you have to do is eat that biscuit, close your eyes, and imagine your dreams coming true. He hesitates. I was going to wrap up the other half and save it for later. Are you kidding? Delilah says. Socks. I was actually going to say something to you. You look way too thin. I can even see your ribs. I'm worried that you haven't been eating enough. Not only can we see Socks' ribs, can we not see Socks' ribs? We can't even see anything behind him. But Delilah's tactic works. Well, Socks simpers, in that case, he leans toward Edgar's outstretched hand and gobbles the rest of the biscuit in a single bite. Now, Orville coaches, make a wish. Delilah immediately grabs my hand so tightly that I can feel her fingernails cutting into my skin. Socks' eyelids drift shut and I hold my breath. Slowly, meticulously, Socks' bottom begins to shrink, inch by cellulite dimpled inch. Socks, I yell, focus. The horse's eyes snap open and he shakes his head with regret. Sorry. He closes his eyes once more and I start to feel a tingling in my fingers and toes. I look down at my hand. It's still in Delilah's as it begins to fade. In that last horrible second, I realize what Delilah had been trying to explain to me. If you love someone, you have to let them go. I grab her shoulders while I still can. She is staring at me in terror, her mouth trembling. Listen to me, Delilah. Live your life. Fall in love again. I take a deep breath. Don't you dare wait for me. She is sobbing, wrapped tight in my embrace, and I am kissing her, and then suddenly I'm not. Becoming two-dimensional again feels like being crushed from head to toe, having the breath forced from one's lungs and being rolled out and flattened like a pie crust. I find myself face down on the beach, the wind knocked out of me. When I try to push myself upright, I fail at first. The muscles I use to move in Delilah's world do not work as well here. Action is executed through thought and intent, not brute physical force. It's like learning to ride a stallion again. By the time I manage to flop onto my back and Repsculio offers me a hand up, Socks is prancing in a circle. I did it, he sings. Do I get a medal for this? I'm thinking gold goes best with my eyes. I am surrounded by well-wishers, the trolls who clap me hard on the back, the mermaids who blow me kisses, the fairies whose excitement shows in small bursts of sparks. Queen Marine folds me into her arms. How grand is it to see you again, Oliver, she says. Over her shoulder, I look around to find others helping Seraphima to her feet. She looks dazed and rattled. Then she catches sight of something behind a boulder and rushes towards it, her eyes wide with wonder and joy. Oh, Frump, you are here, she cries. And she kneels in front of Humphrey, reaching out to pat him. The hound wags his tail, happy with attention. He cocks his head. Hello, beautiful woman. I am Humphrey, and I would like to sleep at your feet tonight. Seraphima's face falls. yet she lets Humphrey lick her face. She looks completely out of place in her jeans and t-shirt, but then again, so do I. I glance down. Delilah's tears still stain my shirt. I stumble away from the crowd and crane my neck towards the top of the page. Delilah's face looms over me, pale and pained. She lets out a small sob and very slowly closes the book. "All clear," calls Orville, the same words Frump used to say when the book was closed by a reader. The characters begin to wander off the margins. "Does this mean we don't have to laser practice anymore?" Biggle asks Snort. Queen Moraine pats my arm as she passes. "I'll get supper started, dear." Orville is the last to leave. "I know this may not be what you wanted, Oliver," he says, "but we're glad to have you home." But home to me is Delilah. Without her here beside me, the world is just a place where I take up space. I sit on the beach by myself long enough for Queen Moraine to finish cooking dinner and the air to grow cold. I sit long enough for the sky to turn black and the moonlight to dance on the ocean. The stars overhead look ragged, knocked out of position by the removal of the wishing biscuit. There's a giant dark space in the heavens where something seems to be missing. As I watch, a new star is born. It flickers twice and then burns more steadily, bright and effervescent, outshining all the others around it. The smaller stars are tugged into order by its gravitational pull, forming a constellation that I've seen before. Chris calls it Canis Major, and he pointed to the brightest beacon in the sky. Sirius, the dog star. I smile, having underestimated Frump's loyalty to me. "Welcome back, old friend." I am fairly certain he winks at me. From my pocket, I pull the photograph of Delilah that I stole weeks ago. That Halloween picture where she is young, dressed in a princess's gown, with a crooked tiara balanced on her head. "We all made it back here," I say to her. "Me, Seraphima, and even Frump. You're the only one who's missing." I wait for her response, but of course, it's no longer that easy. With a sigh, I get to my feet and I go to slip the photograph back into my pocket, only to find that my sweatshirt and jeans have already become a green velvet tunic and hose, that my sneakers have given way to black leather boots. In the distance, I can make out the buttery lights of the castle, and just like that, I'm merely a prince again. Alright, next chapter, we're going to go to Delilah's point of view. I've made a terrible mistake. It hits me when it's too late. When Oliver grabs my shoulders and tells me to forget him, I just pushed away the best thing that has ever happened to me. Before Oliver, I was just the strange kid with her nose stuck in a book and a life so small he could fit in a thimble. But then we met, and he made the impossible happen. I experienced the world instead of simply reading about it. I was no longer alone, I was loved, and now I've pretty much done everything I could to ruin that. I grab his shoulders tightly, but with the fabric of his sweatshirt slips through my fingers. "Wait," I cry, "don't leave me." But he's already gone. Behind me, I hear a crash and a muffled swear, but I don't even turn around. I can't tear my eyes away from the book. Where Seraphima and Oliver have landed. They're surrounded by the other characters, being embraced and welcomed back into the fold. Oliver, I realize, looks just as lost as I feel. He staggers forward, pushing away from the pack, and stares up at me, his hands balled into fists at his sides. He swallows, but he doesn't speak. He doesn't have to. I don't think there's a word in the English language big enough to describe what it feels like to lose your other half. "Holy crap," Joel says. "That actually worked?" I lift the edge of the fairy tale's cover as gently as if it's made of glass and close the book. At that moment, I'm tackled from behind as Jules throws herself at me. "I'd never thought I'd say this," she admits with a sigh, "but I'm glad to be back in this hellhole of a town." Edgar gets to his feet, brushing himself off. What town is this, anyway? I realize that when Edgar left, we were in Wellfleet, not here in New Hampshire. I'm about to answer, but when I turn to look at him, his face makes me stop short. I know it's not Oliver, but his eyes are the same green as Oliver's. His black hair is disheveled. The curve of his jaw is the one I know by touch. It's not Oliver, but it might as well be. I haven't said a word, but Jules watches me carefully. Then she sidles closer to Edgar, slipping her hand into his. "So how's this going to work?" she asks pointedly. It is enough to snap me out of my trance. Horrified, I realize that everyone at school thinks that Edgar is my boyfriend, and it's not going to look good if my best friend is hitting on him. I groan. I don't know. I didn't exactly think this through. I need to get home to my mom, Edgar says, then hesitates. I don't even know where I live. There's a knock on the door, and the three of us freeze. My mother pokes her head inside. Oh, Jules, she says, you must be feeling better. So much, Jules replies. Where's Seraphima, my mother asks. She left early. All the Icelandic exchange students decided to spend their last week in Canada, I say. My mother's eyes moves from Jules to Edgar. Nice tights, she says, trying not to laugh. Halloween, I blurt out. We're trying on costumes. We're going full-on Shakespeare this year. Edgar and Jules smile so wide that I think their faces are going to crack. So, Jules says, breaking the awkward silence, I'm going to go. Edgar, I'll walk you home. She grabs her duffel bag from the floor of my bedroom and takes Edgar's hand. She starts pulling him towards the door. Great idea, I reply. Jules, I'll text you after dinner so that we can talk about, what you missed at school. I turn to Edgar. I guess I'll Skype you later? He looks at me baffled. Whatever. Edgar, I say pointedly. I turn so that my mother can't see my face through clenched teeth and hiss, kiss me. Edgar's eyes dart to Jules. I raise my eyebrows and give him a tight smile. The more we can convince everyone that things are normal, the better this will go. He rolls his eyes, leans forwards, and pecks me on the cheek, as if I've asked him to kiss a toad. My mother laughs. Honestly, Edgar, no need to act like a prince just because I'm here. You can give her a real good kiss goodbye. Awesome, Edgar sighs. He puts his hand on my shoulder, leans forwards, and presses his lips against mine. All I can think is, he's not Oliver. After a moment, I pull away from him. Jules is glaring daggers at me. Shall we? She bites out. She grabs Edgar's arm and yanks him roughly out the door. We hear the front door close behind them when they leave the house. My mother turns to me. Got a lot of homework? Not really, I say. When you don't go to class, you don't get homework. Well, it's just the two of us for dinner. What do you say to a main course of popcorn and one of our favorite films? I swallow back tears. That sounds perfect, I tell her. At this moment, all I want is to get under a pile of blankets and watch a classic Disney movie with my mom. All I want is to know that there is at least one person left here for me. So, I'm missing my Doc Martens, the text from Jules reads. Do you think there's a lost and found for fairy tales? I pick up my phone from my nightstand and reply, Ask Cinderella. Smiley face, Jules writes back. And a moment later, there's another buzz. I can't believe that really happened. I told you so, I write. Welcome to my life. There's a pause. Do you miss him? Jules asks. Like you wouldn't believe. The first time Oliver saw me text someone, he grabbed the phone from my hand, trying to figure out how the small person inside was writing back. It's weird being back. I was getting used to it. My thumbs fly over the keys. You and Edgar? ... Plus Chris, I type. Can I have them both? I grin. Only if you're a Mormon fundamentalist. Kay, Jules writes. Good to know. I hesitate, noting that I have to start a conversation with her that I don't really want to have. You know I have to pretend Edgar's still my boyfriend. Just don't forget that I'm your best friend. Never, I reply. How did things get so messed up? You fell for a guy in a book, Jules types. I sigh. Nobody's perfect. See you tomorrow, Jules writes. Yep. Get ready for a Tony-winning performance from me. LOL. Jules says, oh, one last thing. Question mark, I ask. Don't use tongue. I'm lost in a nightmare, but I'm still awake. It's 3 a.m., and all I can think about is the fact that Oliver told me to move on, as if everything we shared up till this moment meant nothing, as if he's so easily replaceable. Or did he tell me not to open the book because he knows, like I do, how hard it will be now that we have to live in the alternative? I take the fairy tale from my shelf and put it into bed with me. I run my hand over the gilded cover. I'm just going to do it. Open the book. Whatever Oliver said was probably his way of being chivalrous, trying to keep me from slipping back into my sad little life as a loner, obsessed with a fictional story. I fan through the pages, about to skim directly to page 43, the illustration where Oliver is alone on the cliff. It's where we had the most of our conversations before he escaped the fairy tale. But at the last minute, I hesitate. While Oliver is safe in the book, protected from runaway cars, illness, and death, I'm not. Inside the pages, he gets to live in a bubble, forever 16. And maybe that's alright for now, but what about when one day I open the book and my hair is gray? When I have wrinkles? When I'm not the girl he fell in love with anymore? What will happen to him when I die? To open this book is to give him hope, that I will be with him forever, that I'm willing to put my real life on hold for a character in a book. But that's not fair to Oliver, is it? I take the fairy tale and put it back on the shelf. But I'm 100% sure that no matter who I meet in the future, nobody will be like him. I reach for the book again. What is a relationship if you can't go on a date, if you can't hold hands, if you can't ever kiss him again? How long is it going to be before I can't remember what he tastes like, what he smells like, what it feels like to be in the circle of his arms? I toss the book onto the floor. The thing is, without Oliver, I can't even remember who I am anymore. I grab the fairy tale and I let it fall open to page 43. The thing is, without Oliver... I grab the fairy tale and let it fall open to page 43. Oliver springs to the rock wall, holding on the way he would if anyone ordinary were to open the book. When he sees that I am the reader, however, his eyes widen. I'm sorry, I say immediately. I tried not to open the book. I really did. I know you think I shouldn't come here anymore. It's just, I can't not talk to you. I realize that Oliver has hopped down and is smiling from ear to ear. I'm glad you didn't listen to me, he says. I can't stop thinking about you. What are we going to do? I whisper. Well, he says bravely, it's not all bad. It's sort of the way we started, isn't it? I don't mean now. I mean in 10 years, 20. I'm going to be ancient and you'll still be perfect. He grins. You think I'm perfect? I'm not kidding, Oliver. I shake my head. It just doesn't work. If you're in there and I'm out here... He thinks about this for a moment. But you are in here. No matter what I look at, I see you. Can you really tell me that that's enough for you? Won't you get sick of pining away for someone you're never truly going to be with? Oliver looks up at me. You are a part of me, he says. To get rid of you would to literally tear me to pieces. For the first time since Oliver has left, I smile. I bet you say that to all the girls who were your ticket to freedom. I expect Oliver to laugh, but instead he sobers. Delilah, he says, even if I'd been born in your world, I would have found you. I would have chosen you. How am I supposed to go to school and be normal and pretend that you never happened? It's what I do every day, Oliver replies. It's called acting. It's not all that difficult to be the person people expect you to be. It's harder to remember who you really are. Who I really am, I repeat. I guess I'm just a girl looking for a prince. Any prince, he jokes. Just the fictional kind. I have a thing for 2 dimensions. I like my guys flat. He sinks down against the rock wall, drawing his knees to his chest. Wouldn't it be lovely if we could write our own fairy tale? Oliver muses. I curl onto my side, propping the book against the pillow. How would it start? Once upon a time, of course, he says. We meet at the market. I ask you to reach the spaghetti on the top shelf, I continue. And it's love at first sight, Oliver adds. What would we do? Well, Oliver says, we'd live in a little cottage with window boxes where you'd plant violets, and every morning you'd cook me your amazing chocolate chip pancakes. And what would you be doing for me while I'm slaving away in your sexist kitchen, I ask. Someone has to take care of the baby, Oliver replies. We have a kid? 3. 2 strapping lads and a little princess. I pull the covers close. Do we have pets? Only a dozen dogs, Oliver says. All basset hounds, of course. Every day, I add, you go to work. I do? Oliver asks, truly surprised. Our country is not a monarchy, I point out. The peasants aren't going to pay for the college education for your 3 kids. What on earth do I do? I think for a moment. You teach fencing. And you own the corner bookshop, Oliver pronounces, filled to the rafters with fairy tales. After every dinner, we tuck the children into bed and drink a cup of tea and watch the news. And the best part is, at night, I get to hold you, Oliver says, and I know that I'll never ever have to let go. And we are absolutely, positively, blissfully ordinary, I sigh. He looks up at me and I stare down at him, and even though we're both smiling, there's a whole world of sadness between us. Oliver, will you stay with me while I fall asleep? Always, he swears. I put the book down on the pillow beside me, still wide open. 1 minute I'm awake, and the next I'm not. It happens that fast, that effortlessly. Like the moment night turns into morning or summer shivers into fall. Like love. All right. There's a message from the author. It says, "You've seen those pictures of couples kissing in front of a Christmas tree or clasping hands on their wedding day or holding a newborn baby between them, a snapshot of joy. But what do you really know about them? Just that at the second the shutter clicked, they loved each other. You have no idea what trials and tribulations came before or after. You don't know if one of them cheated, if they grew apart, if a divorce loomed on the horizon. You simply see that one static moment. They were happy. A fairy tale is a snapshot too. You never know what goes on post happily ever after. It's simply a frozen minute, and the only one that we seem to remember. The difference is, in a fairy tale, the story can't be altered. The prince and princess will never have a fight. You'll never hear the queen raise her voice. No one ever gets sick. No one ever gets hurt. Maybe love is only safe in places where it can't change." All right. Gonna read the next chapter, and this is going to be from Edgar's point of view. "We're standing at the end of my driveway, or at least what Jules promises me is actually my new driveway. So, I say, now what? She takes a step backward. I guess I'll see you in school tomorrow. She sounds less than enthused about this. In fact, she sounds like she just announced that she needs a root canal or that she found a rat underneath her bed. I go to jam my hands in my pockets and remember I'm wearing freaking tights. Are we good? I ask. Jules nods, but she doesn't look at me. I reach for her hand and I pull her closer to kiss her goodnight, but she stops me. It's different here, Edgar. It's still you, and it's still me, I say. No, here, you're my best friend's boyfriend, she gestures between us. This can't be a thing. So you're just going to pretend that it didn't happen, I argue? Us? I think about how in the book she got me the way no one in my life ever has. It didn't happen. Not for real, anyways, Jules says. Edgar, it was a fairy tale. You can't believe everything you read in books. She turns away quickly and I start to call after her, but I stop short. What if she's right? What if the guy I was in the book, someone confident and brave, a leader, not a follower, was just make-believe? It might as well have been a dream. I might as well have never left. She walks down the street until I can't see her anymore. Looks like nothing has changed. World 1, Edgar 0. Taking a deep breath, I walk up the driveway to the front door. I almost ring the doorbell before I remember I live here. Instead, I turn the knob and follow the trail of light into the kitchen, where my mother stands with her back to me, cooking dinner, looking absolutely incredibly normal. In my whole life, I've never been so psyched to see her. Mom? I cry out, and I envelop her in a hug, squeezing so tight that she yelps. What is going on with you? She laughs, turning around and holding me at arm's length. Now that I can see her face, I notice that there are dark circles in her eyes and a band-aid on her forehead. First the dramatic goodbye this morning, my mother says, and now this. I scrutinize her, trying to figure out if Oliver's right, if she is okay. I just really missed you today. My mother's eyes travel from my face down to my velvet tunic to my knee-high boots. Care to explain? Drama club, I blurt out. I joined at school. She seemed delighted by this. Really? That's incredible, Edgar. I swear, since we've moved here, you've been an entirely different person. Go figure, I murmur. Dinner's almost ready. Can you set the table? She takes a casserole out of the oven and sets it on the stove top to cool. I open a cabinet that looks like it might contain plates but find cereal and crackers. I open a different door and find bowls. Seriously, Edgar? My mother says, pushing past me to open a drawer that has plates in it. You still haven't figured out this house yet? Who keeps their plates in a drawer? I say under my breath. Just get the glasses, my mother sighs and walks out of the kitchen into the vast yonder that must contain the dining room. I fling open all of the cabinets, trying to memorize everything. Then, armed with 2 glasses, I follow my mother into the interior of my new home. Not bad, I muse, glancing around. I kind of miss the charm of our little place on Cape Cod, but this house is not too shabby. There are hardwood floors and giant windows, and all of the furniture I remember from our old place is distributed in new combinations, making everything feel familiar but different all at once. It reminds me of being inside that fairy tale and seeing bits and pieces of my mother's life scattered through the pages. We sit down and my mother serves me a heaping scoop of lasagna. I breathe in deeply, thinking that even though Queen Maureen was a good cook, she couldn't live up to my mom's skill in the kitchen. I wolf down half of what was on my plate before I realize that she's staring at me like I have 6 heads. Hungry? She asks politely. Starving. I make an effort to stop eating like an animal. So, did you have a good day? Not as productive as I wanted to be, my mom replies. I think I napped more than I worked. Oliver mentioned to me that she was tired, and I dismissed it. But what if it's something more? Well, don't you work for yourself? Can't you just give yourself a vacation or a raise? My mother used to be a pretty famous mystery writer. When my dad died and I was a mess, she wrote the fairy tale to give me hope for a happy ending. Oliver was the boy that I was supposed to... in Nebraska? Oliver was the boy I was supposed to grow up to be, except I didn't. In fact, now I'm a year older than Oliver in this fairy tale. So she's probably come to terms with the sad truth. I'm just me. Yeah, it's cold, but I've got a space heater. She stopped writing after she finished between the lines. After that, she did freelance editing projects to put food on the table. I suppose she can work anywhere her computer can be plugged in, which is why Oliver was able to convince her to move closer to Delilah. So what are you editing right now? I ask. It's a debut novel about time travel. Does it suck? My mother laughs. The author wouldn't know a comma if it hit him between the eyes. But it's a great premise. I mean, imagine how freeing it would be to wake up in a different world and get to start over. I hesitate. It's probably not as awesome as you'd think. She stabs at her lasagna, this coming from the boy who plays video games 24/7. Instinctively, I say, I do not. Actually, you're right, my mother replies. You don't. Not since you started dating Delilah. This conversation has suddenly taken a turn for the worse. You two seem glued at the hip, she prompts. She's all right, I say. All right, my mother repeats, spoken with such intense passion. She's amazing, I correct myself. But then I realize I can't really go on and on about Delilah, a girl I don't really know. In fact, there's only one girl in my life that I would describe as amazing. She's fierce, she won't back down from anything, and she's totally her own person. She won't take no for an answer, and she doesn't care what other people think about her. Just saying these things makes me wish that Jules were here. I find my mother staring at me. I'm glad that you have someone like that, someone who will take care of you. Why? I joke. Are you planning to be abducted by aliens anytime soon? My mother tosses me a smile. My starship leaves tomorrow at noon, she says. It starts the moment I get on the bus. Immediately, I duck my head and move towards the seat in the back where nobody will notice me. Before I can make it, a half-dozen people are calling my name or high-fiving me as I walk down the aisle. Hey, Edgar, calls a kid in a polka-dotted bow tie. He points to the seat behind him. Thanks, I slide in, realizing two things at once. I'm super popular here, and these people expect me to know who they are. I had the craziest dream last night, the boy says. I was in a production of Peter Pan that was being performed in my grandmother's driveway, and I felt the urge to run. So I raced into the woods, but after a few minutes, I was starving because of all of the exercise. And I looked down and I realized that my hands were made of cake, so I ate them. And I said to myself, James, now what are you going to do? You don't have any hands. James, I know. That's messed up, I say, and then I add, were they chocolate or vanilla? Devil's food all the way, James says, grinning. The bus screeches to a halt in front of the high school. This at least looks like every other public school on the planet. Pacing in front of a massive oak tree with gnarled arms is Jules, decked out again in head-to-toe black. Maybe being in the real world isn't so bad after all. I say goodbye to James and walk towards her immediately. You're the sexiest ninja I have ever seen, I say. First, ninjas are naturally sexy. Second, I'm not sexy. Not to you. You know who's sexy? Delilah. Another kid walks up, snaking an arm around Jules. My Jules. Feeling better? He asks. Jules goes beet red. Chris, she says, stepping away, we're in public. So, it's been like a week since I've seen you. She smiles. Try 3 days. I'm gonna punch him. I've never punched anyone before in my life, but this feels like the time to do it. I feel a tap on my back just as my fist curls at my side. Delilah stares at me and then at Chris and Jules. Hey, she says, and then belatedly adds, honey? Jules' lips tighten into a thin line. I wind my fingers through Delilah's and raise my brows at Jules. Want me to walk you to class, babe? I ask Delilah. As we head into school, I can feel Jules' eyes burning a hole in my back. I wait till we're all the way inside the doors, far enough away from them to not be heard. Then I turn to Delilah. Who the hell is he? Your best friend, she says. You've got to be kidding me, I reply. She pats my shoulder. It's going to be a fun day. Then Delilah pulls a piece of paper from her backpack. I've written out all of your classes, and there's a map marked up so you know where to go. My phone number's on there too. Text me if you get lost. Oh, and just so you know, today we have activity block in between third and fourth period. You start with chess and then go to drama club. By the way, you're starring in Romeo and Juliet. Wait, what? I'll save you a spot in the cafeteria at lunch, she says. I don't want to live in this world so close to Jules, but unable to be with her. We should break up. The words burst out of me so forceful, I didn't realize how hard I'd been working to hold them inside. That way Jules and I can be together. Delilah narrows her eyes and her voice drops. Do you really think I want to be with you? I remember the way she looked at Oliver when I was still in the book and able to watch them together. Slowly I shake my head. You made your mother move here for me, Delilah says, and people are going to ask questions if you ditch me the next day and you're dating my best friend. This isn't forever, but it's for now. I nod grimly. Then I slip my arm around her waist as if I actually like her, and we move down the hall in solidarity, if not in love. Chess club is canceled, so we can be in homeroom for our guidance counselors to give us our SAT scores. There goes my college career. My standardized test was taken by a guy whose knowledge consists of how to tame a dragon. Once we are dismissed, I stand in front of my locker. I take a deep sigh and prepare to open the envelope. Before I can even peek at the score, however, another stranger comes running up to me. Dude, he says, I got a 2,280. I can totally work with that. I think if I have a decent teacher Rex, Harvard is still an option. I frantically glance at him, looking for a clue to his name. Then I see it on his backpack, a label reading, Return to Raj Patel. Raj, I murmur. Yeah? Come on, tell me your score already. I haven't even looked, but I was really out of it that day. It was almost like I wasn't here. Raj grabs the envelope from my hand and pulls the paper inside. Edgar, he breathes, you're a god among men. What? I grab the printout and turn it towards me. 2,400. You got a perfect score, man. My jaws drops. Oliver totally done me a solid. Raj throws his arms around me. Harvard 2020, dude. We could be roommates. He runs down the hall, sniffing out the other students to compare scores with. I shake my head, still smiling a little. I wonder how on earth Oliver managed to pull that one off. Hey, Edgar, a voice says, a voice I recognize, unfortunately. I'm really glad I caught you. I turn to find Chris opening the locker beside mine. Of course we're locker buddies. Who else would I want to see every morning but the guy who's trying to make out with the girl that I like? I want to talk to you about Jules. Can this get any better? What about her? I asked tightly. She's been really weird today. I mean, I thought everything went so well on Friday night, but now she kind of seems like she's not interested. Really? I say, brightening. Have you tried your best? That's the thing. I haven't. I really think I could still turn this around. I just need another chance. She won't turn me down if we go on another double date. You want to go out with Delilah and me? Yeah, Chris says. You guys are the perfect couple. Maybe it'll rub off on her. The perfect couple, I think. Ha. So what do you say? Chris asks. Mini golf today after school? The last thing I want to do is watch this guy put his hands all over Jules again. But the first thing I want to do is spend more time with her. Can't wait, I tell him. If it were the only activity left in the universe, I still wouldn't want to join the drama club. I lurk near the door, hoping I won't be noticed. But Miss Pingree sees me and waves me forward with a beaming smile. Ah, it's our Romeo, she trills. Don't be shy, Edgar. There is a gaggle of girls sitting in a semicircle on the stage, and when I step into the light, they twitter like a brood of chicks. One girl sits off to the side, staring at her iPhone, which she glances at me. I smile, and I'm pretty sure she bares her teeth in response. As I was saying, Miss Pingree continues, this is the most iconic scene in the play. What I'd like you all to channel is that moment you looked at a significant other and truly believed in love at first sight. The minute you felt the universe had been working all this time to bring you two together. Uncomfortably, I realize that every girl on that stage is staring at me as if I'm food and she is starving. Suddenly, I remember James's dream. If this is what it's like to be a heartthrob, I think I preferred being anonymous. All right, let's get to it. Miss Pingree hands out our scripts. Romeo, Juliet, center stage. Awkwardly, I move into position, waiting alone in a circle of light. Allie, Miss Pingree says, there's no Facebook in fair Verona. The mean girl gets to her feet. She comes closer, so close that I can see the sparkles flecked in her lip gloss. As soon as the teacher turns away, she stomps on my foot. Ouch, I yelp. Sorry, I was aiming higher. What did Oliver do to piss her off so badly? Anytime you're ready, Miss Pingree says. I look at Allie and offer her a half smile as a truce. I should warn you, I kind of suck at this. She narrows her eyes. What don't you suck at? Miss Pingree clears her throat. Now remember, you two, you are in love. You lay eyes on each other and the stars collide. You complete each other. I pick up my script and I stumble through Romeo's lines. Lady, by yonder blessed moon I swear, that tips with silver all these fruit tree tops. Tops. I glance up. Who wrote this crap anyway? Miss Pingree's face falls. The bard, she whispers. Allie snaps her gum. Oh, swear not by the moon, she says, flatly. The unconstant moon. Inconstant, Miss Pingree corrects her, as in something that's changeable. What Juliet is worried about is that Romeo's love might be fickle. Really? Allie says, raising a brow. Probably Juliet thought that he was going to kiss her and then humiliate her in the cafeteria in front of half the school. Miss Pingree frowns. That might be a stretch, but if it helps you get into character. Allie shoves me with both hands. I stumble backwards as she shouts her next line into my face. That monthly changes in her circled orb, lest that thy love prove likewise variable. You know, Miss Pingree says, Juliet's a little gentler in this scene. Allie rounds on her. I think you're wrong. I think Juliet is pretty pissed that Romeo just blew her off. Besides, she didn't really like Romeo all that much. It was just that he was new and more interesting than the hundreds of other lame guys fawning over her. But what she's really thinking is that Mercutio is way hotter than Romeo, and he's in college and drives a vintage Mustang. I stare at her speechless. I don't know if I'm supposed to bow in submission or call the local asylum and have her committed. You know what? Allie shouts. I can't work with idiots. I quit. She hurls her script at a mousy girl wearing a sweatshirt with glittery cat on it. Break a leg, losers. Her high heels click the entire way out of the auditorium as she leaves in a fit of perfume and fury. Miss Pingree looks like she's about to throw up. Her hands flutter at her sides. Does that mean we can leave? I ask. No, she says after a moment. The show must go on. Claire, you'll be our new Juliet. The girl with the cat sweatshirt scrambles to her feet, standing too close to me and breathing heavily. Her braces catch the stage lights when she smiles. Let's start at the kiss, she suggests, and throws her arms around me and plants a wet, slobbery one on my lips. He just had to join the drama club, didn't he? Last year in school, I took Greek mythology course. There's a story about Tantalus, a guy who pissed off the gods so much that he was cursed to the deepest levels of hell. Stuck in a pool of water with a fruit tree hanging overhead, but every time he reached for the fruit, the branch would move out of his grasp. And every time he tried to take a drink, the water receded. So basically, he was surrounded by everything he wanted and needed but couldn't have. That's exactly the hell that I am in on this double date. I never really been a fan of miniature golf. For some reason, the courses always seem to be cracked or sloped weirdly, or are full of kids throwing tantrums. Not even Tiger Woods could get a hole-in-one. I'm the only person here, though, who even seems to care about the inaccuracies on the course, or the fact that the water in the windmill pond at hole number 5 is a frightening toxic green. Delilah hasn't smiled once and is dragging her club around like it's a ball and chain. Jules, who considers sports to be one of the great downfalls of modern society, is doodling on the scorecard. Chris, on the other hand, seems able to golf below par when he's not even looking, which is entirely the case, since his eyes are glued to Jules's butt. I can't believe we have 9 more holes, Delilah says. Your enthusiasm, sweetheart, overwhelms me. I grab her arm and lower my voice. You're the one who said we were supposed to act like a couple. She sighs and holds my hand with about as much romantic intent as a nurse taking a patient's pulse. I think it's your turn, Chris says to Jules. She steps up to the tee, wiggling her hips as she tries to line up her ball. Ugh, she says, I know I'm never going to get it in. Here, let me help. Chris puts down his club and walks over, fitting himself tightly behind her and sliding his hands down her wrists. Ouch, Delilah says, and I realize that I've got her hand in a death grip. It's all in the swing, Chris continues, swaying back and forth with Jules in his arms. Damn it, she giggles. I can't stand here and watch this. I feel like my head is going to explode, and it doesn't really help matters to know that Jules is doing nothing in her power to stop this. How come she was all over me when we were inside the book, but here I'm not good enough? Was I different in there than I am out here? I used to be, that's for sure. The old Edgar would have looked at the competition like Chris and given up, assuming that he had no chance with Jules. But I'm not the old Edgar. I pulled Delilah into my arms. Have I told you how beautiful you are today? Delilah looks at me puzzled. Are you on crack? She mouths. Chris laughs. Get a room, you two. I can feel the heat of Jules's gaze as if she could set me on fire through sheer force of will. She turns, faking a stumble so that Chris will catch her. Wow, she says, feeling his biceps. How many push-ups can you do again? How many do you want me to do? Chris replies, grinning. Are you going to take your turn? I snap at Jules. I don't know, she says testily. Chris, I need your help. As soon as she bends over, taking her stance, Chris spoons himself around her. Ready? 1, 2. As he counts down, I pull Delilah close. On 3, I start to kiss her. Deeply, passionately, wishing every second that she were Jules, who swings at the ball and sends it flying over the fence into traffic. Delilah stumbles backwards. What the hell? She breaks off, realizing that Jules and Chris are staring at us. Did you stop for? She finishes feebly. Chris grins at Jules. Maybe for your next turn, you don't have to go full Hulk, he says. After Delilah smashes the ball almost as angrily as Jules did, we move on to the next hole. You know what I never asked, Chris muses? How did you two meet? Delilah and I look at each other, briefly panicked. She opens her mouth to explain, but I cut her off. Babe, let me. I meet Jules's gaze. She was helping me find something I lost, I begin. We were searching everywhere, through a field, in the ocean, on a boat. Finally we gave up, just lay on the beach stargazing. Jules's cheeks turn pink. So did you find it? Chris asks. Find what? The thing you lost. My car keys. They were in my pocket the whole time. Sounds like fate kicking in, Chris says. Doesn't it? I ask pointedly. For a long moment, Jules glares at me. Then she announces, I'm going to go to the bathroom, and stalks off. And I'll help you find it, I say, hot on her heels. I follow Jules into the lady room and lock the door behind me. What are you doing? She cries. You're screwing everything up. I'm screwing everything up? How many push-ups can you do, Chris? Your biceps are so big, I can barely wrap my hands around them. I'm surprised you noticed since you were so busy making out with my best friend, Jules yells. You can't just walk into my life and assume I'm going to drop everything that came before you. You think it's easy watching the girl I'm crazy about flirting with another guy? Jules shoves me. You're the one who agreed to this date. I shove her back, pinning her against the wall. Yeah, so I could spend time with you. Then you're a moron, Jules shouts. So are you, I shout back. There is one breathless, furious beat of silence between us, and then suddenly her hands are all over me, and mine are tangled in her hair, and I'm kissing her in a frenzy of lips and teeth and heat like I could devour her. When we come up for air, my arms are still on either side of Jules, as if I've caged her. She smooths her hair into place and straightens her shirt. We'd better get back, she says, and she pushes me aside, opening the bathroom door. Maybe this day isn't a total wash. I give her a few moments before I walk out of the bathroom too. I've only just turned the corner when I see Chris at the counter, picking up a replacement ball for the one that Jules sent into the stratosphere. Hey, he says, smiling, this date is totally working. I couldn't agree more, I reply. Delilah drives me home after mini-golf. For 5 whole minutes she doesn't speak. Then, at a red light, she turns to me. Do not ever, ever do that again. You're giving me really mixed signals here, I point out. Am I or am I not supposed to act like your boyfriend? Oh, please, you and I both know that act wasn't for me. My face falls. It's really hard to finally find someone who totally gets me and then have her ripped away from me. Delilah sighs. You're preaching to the choir, Edgar. If sending them back into the book was the right thing, how come we're all so miserable? I guess doing the right thing sometimes means not getting what you want, Delilah says. At least you're in the same world. You get to see her face to face. You and Jules, you're still possible. I think about this for a moment. Have you talked to him? She takes a deep breath and nods, looking pained. I can't not talk to him, but when I do, it feels like I'm tearing out my heart. I glance at Delilah. I haven't really considered how much worse this must be for her. She pulls up to the curb near my driveway. Sorry I kissed you, I say. Sorry I'm not Jules. I open the passenger door and I step outside, but then lean back. Hey, Delilah, I say. I know you're not really my girlfriend, but I'm awfully glad you're my friend. She smiles a little. See you tomorrow, Edgar. My mother's car is in the driveway, but the house is empty. She's not in the kitchen getting dinner ready. She's not in the living room watching the 5 o'clock news. Mom, I call, heading upstairs to her bedroom, and I knock on the door, but there's no answer. Gently, I turn the knob to find her bed impeccably made. She's not in the bathroom or in my room either. Walking down the hall, I peek inside of her office. Papers are strewn across my mother's desk. Some highlighted, some with red circles, and some with sticky notes along their sides. Since she's not there, I'm about to close the door behind me when I notice the spines on a stack of books. Brain Tumors in Adults. The Last Walk, a practical approach for preparing for end of life. Hope is where the heart is, a guide to beating cancer. Tucked into the top one like a bookmark is a brochure. St. Bridget Memorial Hospital, New England's leader in cancer research and neurology. I break into a sweat and my knees start to shake. My mom said she's editing a time travel novel. Why would she need any of these? I walk towards the desk as if a live grenade might be inside it. Scattered across the top are printouts of the kinds of articles only doctors can read, filled with jargon. I pick up the one on the top. Capgras syndrome with right frontal meningioma. I read. Abstract. A 47-year-old woman with a right frontal parasitical meningioma, dear God, who developed the delusion that her husband had been replaced by a look-alike pretending to be her spouse. This type of delusion involves compromise of the fusiform gyrus, the mechanism in the brain that allows facial recognition. Although historically patients with such delusions have been diagnosed with schizophrenia, we suggest that the cause may be biological and part of the tumor's pathology is evidenced by the fact post-surgery the patient experienced a termination of the delusion. I squint as if this might make me understand the jumble of words better. Imagine what would happen if you woke up in the morning and the son you knew better than anyone else looked exactly the same but acted like a British prince. You'd look for an explanation, and the thought that your son switched places with a character in a fairy tale would clearly not be the first one to pop into your head. So maybe you'd start blaming yourself, or thinking you were crazy or sick. Maybe you'd even pack up your house and move to the town that has the best cancer treatment hospital in New England. I'll tell her, I'll describe everything that's happened. If she stops thinking she's crazy and that I am instead, at least that's a start. But here's the important thing. She's not dying. She doesn't have cancer. She can't because she's my mom, and she's all that I have left. Distantly, I hear the door opening downstairs and my mother's voice calling my name. I try to walk out of her office, but I find myself rooted to the spot. She appears in the doorway, her cheeks flushed. She's wearing the black leggings and oversized sweatshirt she always wears when she goes for long walks. People who are really, really, really sick can't go for walks, I tell myself. Edgar, she whispers, looking from me to the desk with all of those horrible, awful papers. I didn't know how to tell you. Tell me what? I muttered through the clenched teeth. I have to hear the words out loud. I have to hear her say it. She opens her mouth, but before she can speak, her eyes roll up so that the whites are showing. Her whole body begins to convulse. I catch her just before she hits the floor. Oh, next chapter is super long. So that one is going to be tomorrow, because all of that is one chapter on here. All right. So we'll come back to this one tomorrow. I am going to be streaming a game later. I'm going to be streaming the Elder Scrolls Castle game. It's on the phone. So it's on Android. I don't think it's on Apple. But I'm going to be streaming that a little bit later. But so that's going to be it for the book. Again, that was Off the Page by Jodi Picoult and Samantha Van Leer. And I will continue reading that again tomorrow. All right. Goodbye, everybody.